Hey, I'm Andy Lambert, previous co-founder of Content Cal and product manager at Adobe. Trust is becoming a more powerful growth lever than typical demand capture because we're flooded by AI content everywhere. It's so hard to know who to trust, what to buy. And yes, of course, there's opportunity in being cited in AI, and I definitely believe that. But really, the brands that are going to win are the ones that become first to mind. The ones when you ask your friends or your community that you hang out in, what product shall I use for this particular problem? It's those products that are cited the most that will increasingly win. And that's always been the case, but there's a magnifying glass that's been put over that when we look at it in the AI era that we're in now. It's those brands that are trusted at a human level, of which, they're the ones that get cited the most, they're the ones that get recommended the most, and they do that for a number of reasons, which we might get into. What search everywhere optimization actually means is optimizing our business so that it will appear wherever our customers are. So yes, of course, AI is important, and we have been really fixated on that as a marketing community, and it's definitely very important, no doubt about that. But the thing is, being cited in AI is a net side effect of doing all of our other marketing things well, getting other people to talk about us, press and PR, having us be a personal brand online and talk about our experiences and mentor models on LinkedIn, for example, nurturing a community on Reddit. All of that feeds our AI overviews. Basically, the AI overviews in which all the marketing community is assessing about, which is true, and there's lots of opportunity, but it really is the end result of doing marketing well and doing all the things we should have been doing, which is building a brand that people love and want to talk about, and then nurturing all those communities. And that, it's simple, but it's not easy, right? It requires a lot of effort on behalf of the business. So across the 6 spheres of influence, which is part of my book, the sphere that I think most people miss is the community area. So this is the third rung of this. And I speak about this all the time. And this is one of those few hills that I'll die on as far as doing marketing well goes. Is that many people think, oh yeah, we've built a community, we've got X thousand followers on Instagram. That's not a community. A community is something that's reciprocal. A community is something that exists organically. It might be on Reddit, it might be on Discord or WhatsApp. It's independent of channel. It's the people that meet that care about a specific piece or specific vertical industry or whatever. So in building Content Cal, community was the most important central lever to how we grew, and that was all through working with other communities. For the type of audience that we were trying to target and the market we're trying to go into, we spent all of our time building relationships with those community owners, co-creating content to serve the needs of that community. And that is an effort that compounds over time, because the net result of this is that when someone posts in that particular community of that target audience, say, hey, which product should I use? I've got this problem. Everyone then cites your name, because you are a big fish in a small pond. And that is what spheres of influence and doing marketing well is all about. It's knowing where our people are and the sphere that they get influence within, and then ensuring that we are within all of those. How a brand will judge whether they invest in founder-led growth, community partnerships, or creators, etc. And I don't think it's binary. It's a case of we should do all at a certain point. We should do all of it. But founder-led growth is where it starts. This is where you build the muscle of understanding and speaking the language of your business. You will only get better as a founder, and it's uncomfortable for many. You'll only get better as a founder articulating your story if it's a constant practice. My practice every day when I founded the business in 2016 was to do a 1-minute video every single day, right? Awkward at first, super cringe, but it's the only way you get better. Constantly articulating your message, constantly, obviously you had the benefit of always speaking with customers as well, so you could hone the message you really cared about the story you're going to tell. And I say this all the time, storytelling is one of those durable things that us as business owners need to have that skill locked down. We need to be so strong at how we tell our story, because that underpins everything that we do. So yeah, founder-led growth first, and then you can layer on creating communities on top of it. My number one reason is if I'm going to pay to work with someone, have someone post about us, they need to use our product, they need to use our service, and they need to advocate for us even when there's no money being exchanged. The reason I care about that so deeply is that that is genuine advocacy. And, you know, sometimes there's value in just buying reach. Sometimes working with an influencer, you want to buy reach, fine, you know, they've got reach. Sometimes you want to buy creative. A creator is wonderful at telling a story. And sometimes you just want to have, like, maybe you want to run an ad. You could work with a creator. That makes perfect sense. But if you want to really influence at scale and build a narrative around your business, you work with someone that has influence in your target audience, again, in that sphere that we were talking about before, and you need to get them on board. You need to sell your concept or product to them, so that'd be like, you know what? I absolutely love that. Yes, we're going to pay you because, you know, I respect what you've done and you deserve to be paid, but I want you to use the product for free. And after you use the product, then we'll talk about a paid collaboration, because that's what you want. It's because that influencers community has significant power, and you want that influencer to go, when they're inevitably asked about that particular category, what product should I use, that influencer needs to go without blinking, you. So if zero-click searches continue to rise, which are 60% searches right now, and they'll continue to rise, what do we care about? The thing that we care about most, which is a primary leading indicator for every business, is share of voice, which is simply the measure of how many times our brand is mentioned relative to our competition. Because if we are growing our share of voice, which means more people are talking about us versus the month prior, that means we're going to grow. It's the ultimate leading indicator. Yes, I mean, I would love to still have lots of search traffic, etc. Great, but sometimes things change. And this leading indicator should have always been the case. It was our North Star when we were building Content Cal, and it is the ultimate barometer of if you are being spoken about more than your primary competitor, and there's a lot of tools out there that allow you to track that. Simply public mentions, how many you get aggregated together on a month, compare that to your competition. If you have a larger share of voice in your competition, you are taking their market share. Good example of this is a LinkedIn tool called Supergrow, and interestingly I found out about them because they get cited so many times on Google AI Overview, so I started to have a look into it, and so many of those citations are driven through Reddit. So Reddit commentary consistently cites Supergrow, so what they must have done is, one, it's not them posting, but they must have like seeded this somehow, seeded the Reddit chat, or made friends with the regular contributors on Reddit. Reddit is notoriously very hard to break into, but when you do, there is fantastic defensible ground. So I thought that was a very smart move. So for an SME to build memory in market and become first to mind, one of the first things that I would do is, one, build a LinkedIn presence. And it's a bit too tactical to start with, but it's so important right now, especially because LinkedIn is the #1 cited source in ChatGPT and Claude queries, so LinkedIn's become more important. But the first thing I would do after starting to build my founder-led narrative is look at everyone I could collaborate with. So I would actually use Claude Cowork for this specifically, and I would put in, here is the industry that I'm going after, here's the problems that they're trying to face. Claude Cowork, go find me people within this space that have a strong narrative on this problem statement, that operate within these markets, wherever you're trying to target, and find me those people I could collaborate with. Find the first 5 and 10, and then think about what are things we could co-create. You can riff with Claude on this, like, should we go to them and ask for a webinar? Could you just set up a little podcast where you just interview successful people? The podcast could be the first podcast guest, it doesn't matter. It could be brand new. What you're trying to do is create an asset that's going to encourage them to say yes. And then you can create that into something that becomes inherently shareable. So you both build pipeline, learn about your target audience and target market quickly, and you build shareable assets. And that is where your share of voice starts. That very first collaborative action, and you can build from there.